What's up, y'all? Indominus B here. Many of you may have already heard, but Limited Run is putting out a brand new version of Doom for the Super Nintendo 30 years after the original port launched. And they've even managed to get one of the guys who worked on the original Super Nintendo port on board. Using what they're branding as their brand new Super FX3 chip, they've managed to do some pretty cool stuff here, such as including some FMVs in the beginning, introducing a difficulty that was not present in the original port, and including 14 levels that also weren't in the original Super Nintendo game. Due to its low frame rate and input delay, the Super Nintendo port of Doom has been viewed as one of the worst of all time, at least in recent history. But I think the most impressive part about this, the thing that people are looking the most forward to, is that they've managed to take the frame rate from 10 to 20 FPS. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I have a soft spot for the SNES port. This is one of the first versions, if not the first version of Doom I ever played. And so when I seen that Limited Run was bringing it back and doing it justice, I was pretty excited about this. So I wanted to make a video kind of showing the two side by side, and to see just what 20 frames per second can do compared to 10 and sometimes less. Now there's two things I want to say before we get into this. First is that I do not have access to an early version of this game. In order to make this comparison, I just went and compiled the best footage I could from across the internet and tried to recreate it with the original version. Second is that I've seen it floating around that this is essentially just a Raspberry Pi in a Super Nintendo cartridge. But according to the people that are working on this directly, that's actually not the case. What Limited Run has branded as the Super FX3 chip is technically a microcontroller from a Raspberry Pi, but the Super Nintendo is still handling its fair share of stuff. Alright, well without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I would be curious to know, what was your original experience with Doom? Was it on a PC, Super Nintendo, maybe the 32X, Jaguar? I'd love to know down in the comments. And are you looking forward to Limited Run's new release for the Super Nintendo? Until next time, Indominus out.